If you have any questions, you can raise your hand and you will be given a mic to pose your question. Yes, please. We have Admiral Jayannath Columbage who will raise a question. For those who do not know, Admiral Jayannath Columbage was Sri Lanka's Navy chief, played a very decisive role in the war, and even after that, to bring stability and prosperity to Sri Lanka. Admiral.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for wonderful presentation. And my question is to my friend Admiral from US Navy. I see a terminology difference between the 2007 strategy and the latest one. In that you mentioned the first one was Asia Pacific, but now you talk about Indo-Asia Pacific. So I would request views on that strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral, for that good question. And I also was honored to meet Admiral Columbage and also to eat dinner at that nice Tintagal house. Tintagal? A great dinner. So the Indo-Asia Pacific, we wanted to make sure that we expanded our focus. As I said, the Indian Ocean has the economic lifelines that serve India, that serve your country, that serve, for 70 years since the end of World War II, the sea lines have been open and it's been rules-based, and this has provided economic prosperity, so all the Asian economies have been able to rise. And it's important that we maintain that freedom of the seas and that security. And then obviously the Indo-Asia Pacific is so important as we have the rise of India, of course, this other great rising country. We have these critical choke points that we talked about, the Bab el-Mandeb. Just if you looked in the news a short while ago, they were doing the evacuation from Yemen. That was the Indian Navy doing that. This is an area that's going to be increasingly important. Its time has come, and we wanted to focus on that and make sure that we called it out in the strategy and to strengthen these partnerships in the region, this vital region. And so.
Yes, General. We have General Hettiarachchi, who in many ways spawned and created and strengthened special operations capability in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, my question is to Admiral. Yeah, this is about, I mean, actually to satisfy my this is about incident that occurred in the Black Sea, your destroyers, USS Donald Cook, where it says, I mean, I read a lot of articles where it said the Russian aircraft, Su-24s have, I mean, bust, you know, about, and that the jamming system, your electronics, got jammed. From your news, it doesn't say anything about it. I just want to verify what happened actually. And so much so, maybe I don't know whether it's Russian propaganda or anything, but there are a lot of YouTube articles appearing about this last year. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir, for your question again. What I would like to say, I've also commanded an Aegis cruiser, similar to the destroyer, and we are always monitoring the air space. You can think of an Aegis cruiser, an Aegis destroyer as like an airport, because you have a tremendous capability. A 3D aircraft can look out a tremendously long way, and we have very talented air controllers and radar operators to determine and to track any aircraft that are incoming. In each situation, you make the call in what we call the Combat Information Center, whether we think it's threatening or not. And it's not uncommon to have aircraft fly over ships. And we have a long history of operating obviously in that region and with that country. So I think it's always important not to overreact. and to know where you are, exercise restraint when required, but also be ready to respond when that's required. And so I think our commanding officers, we give them a lot of responsibilities on our ship to make those calls. And I have to say that I always back up and the commanding officer of the ship who has that tremendous responsibility for all of the people on that ship and for our country. And they always make the right call. Thank you, sir.
Yes, please.
This is a question for the Admiral from the United States. The part of the conference here focused on professionalism in the armed forces, and I was just wondering, given the downsizing of the armed forces in the United States, how are you maintaining professionalism in the Navy? More specifically, what proportion of officers, the officer actually has a higher degree? I'm being cut clear. Has a higher degree. Is this thing working? Yeah. Has a higher degree in any profession, engineering, medicine, science, psychology. What proportion, and is there a turnover? Are the officers in the U.S. Navy are they acquiring higher education? Does the Navy actually promote graduate studies for their officers in the Navy? What is it? How do you maintain the ethics and the higher standards that sort of come with an academic education? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for that question. I was cut short on time, but in my speech I was going to just say this is a great conference, and it's really great to be in the company with such a diverse group of professionals, and I've been very impressed with the fields here, health and medicine, engineering, and all the applied sciences. So very important, and my hat's off to the whole the people with the PhDs and the folks who educate our next generation. So I think our education opportunities in the Navy are very good. I was sent to postgraduate school, and I have 2 master's degrees, but I'm a warfighter at heart and a ship captain at heart, and I commanded 3 ships. I think you have to have the balance between those, but we provide lots of opportunities for our officers to get higher education. We have fellowship programs with think tanks, a very robust support. They're at the Council on Foreign Relations. They're at various think tanks out in town, out in the Washington, D.C. area. We send them to Cambridge. We send them overseas to various places. We want to encourage that thought and make sure that people have a chance to rise with some outside of the box thinking. So it is important to us, but then also in the end, remember that what our #1 mission is, and so that would be being able to safely operate your ship and to be able to do the nation's bidding if we're called. Thank you, sir.
The last question. Yes, please. I'm sorry. Let's give the opportunity to the lady first.
Thank you, sir. This question goes to the Commandant of the National Defense University of Bangladesh. As you briefly spoke of about the insurgency and how the Bangladesh Armed Forces responded to it. Thinking of it in terms of the concept of creating white areas in the hearts and as the Vice Chancellor of Defense University of the Philippines spoke of, have you been able to convert the Chittagong area completely to a white area? If so, what are the strategies that you have used in addition to improving the infrastructure and living standards of those people?
The question is from Ms. Senanayaka of the Ministry of Defence of Sri Lanka. To you, General.
Thank you very much, lady. I think you are already aware of the subject. So I shall only give my perspective and the way we could contain the insurgency in the southern area of Bangladesh, that is Chittagong Hill Tracts. Actually, the problem started with a political difference, and people, as usual, felt deprived of their own land because of main people from the mainland, mainstream started settling down in that area. So they wanted a special area right, and based on that they wanted a recognition of their language, they wanted special economic rights, and they wanted a host of other issues came up over the period. Actually, it is not the Bangladesh Army which entered in that area at its own. It was the government which, after failing that the civil administration, including other law enforcing agencies, police and paramilitary forces, are not being able to contain the situation, because the life of the common people, including people of that area, the tribal, were endangered because of the conflict situation that escalated over a period. So on order, Bangladesh Army was deployed alongside other paramilitary forces and civil administration to support the civil administration and bring back law and order situation. The basic instruction, aim was to develop the area, and the army interpreted it in a way that we know about the heart and mind of the people, and there were a lot of other strategies to explain that. To win over the heart and mind of the people, we did not go for open confrontation actually. We tried to take the people along with us and motivate them so that they understand the real problem and cooperate in the development of the area. Our purpose was to ensure the development of the area as undertaken by the government and other agencies, so that people can participate in the development process and they get the fruit, and they are excluded from getting involved in the insurgency problem. Side by side, the negotiation process was going on at political level, and accordingly the problem, say, started since 1974, and by 1999 the peace accord was signed with minimum casualty, with minimum possibly loss of life. The area was developed, a peace accord was signed between the parties, the government and the party that led the insurgency, and there were different agendas which they wanted should be solved. Most of them have been done. The most difficult subject, that is land distribution to the people as per their choice, it is also being undertaken, and hopefully very soon this will be done. At the moment there is no problem, and the only problem is still there are some people who collect tolls in the name of different groups. Otherwise, the main people of that area, they have already joined the mainstream, and they have been given additional vacancies in education sector, in government service, in the civil bureaucracy, in different university, college, medical college, everywhere. So even in the armed forces we have generals, we have brigadiers. In the police we have additional IGPs, and people have been competing to go even higher. There are good number of secretaries from that area, and I can tell you the education percentage is higher than any other area of Bangladesh. So I think we have been able to not combat but to contain and make sure that people participate in the development process. And the strategy that was undertaken by the armed forces was to win over the heart and mind of the people by ensuring development process of the government. Thank you, lady.
The last question. Yes.
My question for Admiral, US NASA contract employee Edward Snowden, now hiding in Russia, he revealed how NASA officials violating right to privacy and monitoring citizens' transactions, as well as they are listening to most of the conversations. And also WikiLeaks creator Julian Assange, he also revealed in his WikiLeaks how USA forces as well as military monitoring people transaction, because right to privacy is protected in US Constitution. So when we are talking about professionalism and professional forces, what do you think these type of surveillance monitoring, will it violate right to privacy of the citizens? Under the Patriotic Act, you have the full power. But even Edward Snowden very recently revealed another file from Russia. He said continuously US forces are monitoring, surveilling all these computer and other things. Also Google, all the companies, Hotmail, which are based in USA, and Facebook. So this type of monitoring, surveillance, will it violate right to privacy of USA citizens? Thank you.
Admiral, if you do not wish to respond to that question, you can say no. But you must understand that this is the university named in honor of Sir John Kotalawala, who's one of our great leaders, and he always encouraged free debate and discussion. So I thought that Sir John's spirit is here, and it is in that spirit that this question has been posed. You can see even the dance performance this morning. That was also in the spirit of Sir John, who loved entertainment. And our Vice Chancellor, General Milinda Peris, is continuing in the highest tradition that was inculcated by General Sir John. So I want to share with you that while you have the right to decline, in the spirit of Sir John, we request you to respond to this question. Why you have harped so much on privacy? But we have recently heard that the National Security Agency has even monitored the communication of the German Chancellor.
Well, I'm so glad that the spirit of Sir John is alive and well. And it's a good question. You know, I hope I really did love the lighting of the lamp ceremony, and it was to good effect. It's a good question, and I understand the question, and there's always a healthy debate in our country between freedom and then also protecting our people. As you know, we were subject to a horrible terrorist act in September 11th, 9/11, and I think everybody watched the towers fall. And so we have to protect our nation and our citizens, and I'm not a lawyer, but we follow the laws, and I don't want to get into anything classified, but protecting your nation is always always at the forefront, but there always is that balance, and so it's a good question. I respect it, but I would prefer to have the discussion with you, sir, offline, and we can have a nice chat. Certainly, everybody here has got a higher degree than I do, so I'm very willing to listen to your views. But thank you for the question.
Admiral, you mentioned something very important. You said that protecting our nation is always at the forefront. And let me also share with you that Sri Lanka fought a very brutal insurgency and a terrorist campaign for 30 years. Before the advent of ISIS in Iraq and Syria, we faced our own ISIS here. In fact, the Tamil Tigers practiced the same techniques, the same tactics as ISIS. They waged hypermobile warfare. The hybrid warfare that you speak of was practiced here for 10, 20 years. And I want to share with you that the Sri Lankan security forces, a segment that is represented here, defeated that brutal insurgency. But we lost our friends, we lost our family members, we lost people who went to fight. My own classmate, Lieutenant Vas Gunawardena, we studied for 10 years. He was the first officer to die in that insurgency. So the people you are seeing here, they all suffered very deep sorrow as our family members were killed, as our friends were killed. So Sri Lanka has recovered from that phase. So you lit the lamp today because fire dispels darkness, wards evil, creates enlightenment. That is why you lit the lamp. I'm sure Admiral Columbage will present to you a lamp to take back to the United States. But in doing so, I must conclude this session by saying that the military professionalism in Sri Lanka was at its peak even after the war ended. Sri Lanka practiced three phases. First was the humanitarian phase, where tremendous assistance was provided not only to the civilians who were entrapped by the Tamil Tigers, but also to the Tamil Tigers who surrendered. 12,500 Tamil Tigers were rehabilitated using religious rehabilitation, educational rehabilitation. Not far away from KDU, 500 Tamil Tiger children were sent to school, some of them are at university. Social and family rehabilitation. So there was a multi-pronged approach adopted to rehabilitate those civilians and those fighters. The second phase was socio-economic development, and that is why we have not had a revival. In Iraq and Afghanistan, you had a revival after it was declared that the wars were won in those countries. It is because of the huge investment that was made to stabilize the North and the East. And of course, the final phase, which is political engagement, is still continuing. So I believe that Sri Lanka presents an excellent case study for many of the delegations who are here from overseas. And we would very much like to share some of those insights and experiences with you. As a civilian, I want to conclude by saying that civilians were never deliberately targeted in the North or the East. But in all conflicts, insurgencies, terrorist campaigns, as the terrorists used the civilian population as a shield, civilians did perish. But none was deliberate. So I want to say that professionalism was displayed both during the phase of operations, the counterinsurgency operations, as well as after that conflict. But KDU is in many ways a pathfinder under General Milinda Peris. He continues to seek new knowledge, new understanding, build bridges with other countries. For example, the Vice Chancellor from the National Defense University of Malaysia, he just told me that they are signing agreement with KDU. So I believe that KDU is the vanguard, the spear, to build that understanding and knowledge in Sri Lanka. And we all continue to look forward to the excellent cooperation, the countries that are represented here, the countries that are here, and the countries that have not participated in this event, to bring about a new face in development in Sri Lanka. And we look forward to having an extended session next year, because I think this session generated so much of interest, so many questions that we answered, but also questions that we could not answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We have now reached the end of an immensely interesting plenary session where we had the opportunity to hear the perspectives of different regions from the world. I would now like to invite our Vice Chancellor, Major General Milinda Piris, to present certificates and tokens of appreciation to the participants of this session. General Tan Sri Dato. Major General R.P.S. Vaduria. Lieutenant General Chaudhry Hassan Sarwadi. Rear Admiral William C. McQuilkin. And the chairperson of the session, Professor Rohan Gunaratne. Thank you, sir.